Pick up your gear and open your chests. Throw on your armor and head out on a quest. Hey, hey, it's a brand new day. On the Sword Coast, your allies will help with blazing bows and magic as well. Hey, hey, heroes on their way. Fighting forever against overwhelming odds. Fighting together in favor of multiple gods. Idle champions of the forgotten realms. Idle champions, adventure never ends. Idle champions, did you want them? Idle champions, you will say again. Idle champions. From Waterdeep to Icelandale, head out to Cho or Shadowfell, hey, hey. Together we stay. Walk to the monsters, walk to the boss, walk to the right, it's never a loss, hey, hey. Bad guys to slay. Fighting forever against overwhelming odds. Fighting together in favor of multiple gods. Idle champions of the forgotten realms. Idle champions, adventure never ends. Idle champions, did you want them? Idle champions, you will say again. Idle champions.
And hello everybody, and welcome to another Gaarawarr's Guide, the tutorial show. Today's topic, the Ashara meta. Yeah, this is a bit of a different tack today for us to go on. We've never quite talked about metas before, not completely. We've talked about certain things that happen, like Azaka farming and whatnot. But we've never just been like, hey, here's what the current meta is, or one of them, and talked about it. I am still going to tackle this kind of from a new player perspective. There are lots of new players who are and everyone's telling them, oh, you should just use Ashara DPS, use Ashara DPS. And then we see them in the Discord going, Ashara doesn't really seem to do a whole lot. What am I doing wrong? How do I make this work? So we're going to talk about that. Because this is the first time we've ever done something like this. We'll see how it goes. You tell us after this is over with if this was helpful to you. Because we may have more things like this in store for you on the schedule. So yeah. We do have a code. Obviously, you can throw the code in the shop. You know, click on the little $, come here to unlock a locked chest. Throw it in. You know, it is 16 digits. That does mean you're gonna have to switch from 12 to 16 digits unless you're copy pasting. In which case, it'll switch for you. Martin is on the C&E Games account this morning, pulling questions. Remember, because this is the tutorial show, the first hour of the show is me talking about the topic. You can ask questions, however, I won't be answering them or addressing them really, for the most part, until the second half of the show. After we'll take a short break, and we'll come back and I will do Q&A, and I will address things that are on topic first, and correct anything that I may have gotten wrong, or bring up something I may have forgotten, as it so happens sometimes, and then we'll dive into just general questions. All right. So for the first time ever, we're going to dive in to the Ashara meta. Now, Ashara is an Aarakocra. She is one of our core champions. She's on the screen right now. I think, do I have her? I think this is the champion skin. Yeah, that's champion Ashara. Okay, here's regular Ashara for you. Here's vanilla Ashara. Just so people know, there's not a big difference between vanilla and champion, though. We're going to talk about Ashara. Ashara is one of our core champions, so that means you get her right away in the game. She's slot 6, so once you unlock up to there, you're good to go. That means she's currently, when we talk about the Ashara meta, what we're talking about is Ashara DPS. She is currently the queen of DPS in the game. Basically, the number 1 DPS if you build your formations correctly. And that's what we're kind of going to talk about today. Yeah. So, you basically have one of the best DPS in the game right away when you start. Now, does that mean that the moment you first put her in, she's just going to destroy everything? No. No, that's not how champions work. Champions need to get into what I refer to as their power curve. Sometimes that's just getting a certain number of upgrades for them. Sometimes that's getting certain abilities to light up. And when it comes to Ashara, that's kind of the key here. Ashara is from the Tomb of Annihilation campaign book. She was also in the Tomb of Annihilation board game and Tales from Candlekeep, Tomb of Annihilation, the video game. That's why we're in Tomb of Annihilation today, folks. This is kind of her hometown. What's kind of going to make Ashara a best, and what you get right away, one of the key components is her bond ability. Ashara likes to bond with other races. So right away, at level 10, you get 3 bond options. These are specializations. She actually has 2 specialization choices over time as you level up. So this first one arrives right away at level 10. Her second set of 3 arrives at 325. So you're gonna have to get a lot further in her upgrade path to get her second bonds around. Now this is one of the foundational pieces of what makes her strong. But in my opinion, it isn't what truly makes her kind of top tier in the meta. We'll talk about that ability in a moment. What you do with Ashara, she gets 3 options at each specialization choice. You kind of have to pick the one that, based off what you're attempting to do with Ashara, you have to pick the one that you're going to use. Now, the first sets are humans, dwarves and elves, and potpourri. Now, I do want to point out there are a lot of humans in this game. There are a lot of dwarves and elves. Elves, for the record, include not just elf, but drow, eladrin, and wild elves as well. So you want to keep that in mind if you're setting that up. Those are more... there goes my voice. I think it's just mornings, folks. My voice just doesn't like mornings. Those are more options in this first specialization for support, potentially. Because what you're looking at, kind of the hands-down choice when you're choosing DPS for Ashara, is potpourri, or potpourri, if you just want to, annoy your friends and family. Potpourri includes Aarakocra, Dragonborn, Firbolg, Lizardfolk, Minotaur, Tieflings, and Tortles. So you have a wide array of different types of races that they threw all in one. Now, the key one in there being Aarakocra. That's what Ashara is. So that means she can bond with her own race and thus buff herself. Well, that's what you want out of a DPS. What we're going to do here, again, there's humans, there's dwarves and elves. These are great if you're doing support, but we're here to talk about the meta, and the meta right now is all around Ashara and potpourri. Okay, so we're going to pick potpourri. So right off the bat, what other core champions are there that match that bond? Because remember, she's bonding with these people. She's increasing their damage. Now, obviously, we're only increasing her own, but we're going to want to know who else is available potentially there. In the core champions, that's going to be Makos, Tyrell, and Archon. This is going to come more into play in a moment when we get to the ability that is what actually kind of makes her take off. I'm not saying take flight because that's a different ability, folks. I know what I'm doing. All right, we want to get up to level 80. Why is that? This is where her power really kind of is going to kick in. It isn't just with that initial bond. It's once you get up to 80, because 80 unlocks her Paragon of Kirsa ability. Let's go look at that. Paragon of Kirsa increases the potency of each of the Ashara's bond abilities separately by 100% for each matching bonded race in the party. So this means the more people of that bond that are in the party, the bigger the boost you're going to get from the bond, right? So if we just scroll down here, first bond, Potpourri affects one champion, because we only have Ashara in here. And because I get a lot of bonuses from gear and stuff and feats, and we'll talk about that too, there's already a significant bonus, right? But baseline, 100% for each matching bonded race in the party. Now, that's nice, and that's great, but what actually makes this super strong is the second part. Additionally, Ashara gains the effect of a given bond if at least 3 champions are affected by it. So that means that, well, we chose Potpourri, which means Ashara's already getting it. If we get 3 champions, she gets it. She gets some more of it. And when we get to her second bond, since that's not going to have Aarakocra in it, if you get 3 of those, of whatever bond you choose, she's going to get the benefit of that too. So it's basically buffs on top of buffs on top of buffs. And this is what makes Ashara really strong right now in the current meta. The fact that she can buff herself with each of these sets of bonds that you're building up. Now, clearly this is something that can work for support. That's why when you do support, you build it around the same kind of thing. You pick who you're supporting. If you wanted to use Ashara support for some reason, just because maybe you like a different champion and you want to run a different champion DPS, sure. But you can. And you build it around the largest numbers of people, like your DPS, whoever your DPS is, and then the largest numbers that you're going to have in there to get this really high. But the real power of this is with Ashara. Just going, I heard you like some bonds with your bonds, right? Like, she just goes all in on herself, and that's what makes her really strong. So getting her to Paragon of Kirsa is the big deal. Now, as I stated, there is an item for that. It is her slot 3. So this increases the effect of Ashara's Paragon of Kirsa ability. But that's not all, folks. Her slot 4 increases the effect of her bond abilities. So because these two abilities work in tandem with each other, you effectively get multiple buffing items for this synergy, right? And she also gets, of course, her own self-damage. So she has... you can boost her self-damage, you can boost her bonds, and then you can boost the thing that gives her her own bonds. It's just kind of the perfect effect, right? So, that brings us back to what we talked about before. Who else in the core, so for new players, who else in the core can you use to let you light up that bond? Well, if we come over here to slot 8, 9, 9. It's 9. Come on, Gaarawarr. And 10. Boom. Well, let's put this over here. We can do this here and this here. Now we have Aarakocra, Tiefling, and Firbolg all in the party. And if we come over and we look at Potpourri, it tells us down here, stacks multiplicatively, current stacks 3, first bond, 3 champions. We now have major bonuses. Major bonuses. And it's going to apply multiple times now. And Ashara's just going to get all the goodness. All the goodness out of that bond. So, when you're building as a new player, when you're building out your formation, know that if you're using Ashara DPS, you want to go Potpourri. And you want to make sure you have Makos and Tyrell in. If all you have is your core champions, you haven't unlocked any other champions yet, that's going to give you all you need to start using Ashara to your benefit. This kind of setup is now what I'm using in my new player guides when you're fighting, when the boss for an event is an armored boss. Because Ashara Gets multiple attacks. If you've been watching, she gets, even at low level, she gets 3 of those magic missiles shooting out. There's my voice again. So she gets 3 of those magic missiles shooting out, and she gets more as she levels up. So this helps to chew through those bosses that are armored and that have like hit-based health. So armored is where you have to do a certain amount of damage, threshold amount of damage based off their overall health to take off a chunk, whereas hit-based is just any amount of damage will take off a hit. I'm seeing someone say yes, Archon is core and fits in Potpourri as well. But here's the thing. Archon is a very selfish champion. There are a few of these in the game. Archon does not support other people. Archon comes in to do the damage himself. And this is an Ashara DPS formation. So if you're bringing Archon in, what you're saying is, I don't have any other way to buff Ashara. And this is all I've got. Now, is that possible? Absolutely. It's absolutely possible that that's what you're going to do. But keep in mind that this is what we're talking about is Ashara formations and not Archon formations. So we want to bring in people when we're building out a formation that are going to support Ashara and allow her to achieve the highest levels of DPS possible. So we really want to make sure that everyone else in this party that we're building up here is contributing to her DPS overall. Let me make sure. Yep. Okay. So one of the other things that we do want to point out here is feats. Ashara doesn't get a lot of feats. She does have some self-damage, a 30% and a 60%. Obviously, you're going to want to go 60%. And then when you pick it up, there is a Bonds of Kirsa Bala feat, which buffs bond abilities, ironically, instead of Paragon of Kirsa Bal. But sure, I guess that's in the name too, bonds. So it's going to buff the bonds. That's fantastic. Anything we can do to buff bonds or buff Paragon of Kirsa Bal, we want to do. This is an epic feat. That means it is either something that comes with a cash purchase or you pay 50,000 gems for it. So when people are like, well, are there any 50,000 gem feats that are worth it? Well, if you're going to go all in on Ashara, if you're going to build around Ashara and do like in the current meta, when you can afford to save up and then spend 50,000 gems, this is one to target. This is one to target. Because there aren't any other feats like this in her kit. You are just getting that nice 80% boost straight off the bat. Let's level her up some more. She does get another feature that's going to help her DPS that isn't related to her specializations, and that is the one I was avoiding saying earlier, and that is Take Flight. This is an interesting DPS option or ability because it kind of functions like tank abilities usually function. Tank abilities usually have some kind of ramp up where once enemies start beating on a tank, the tank starts buffing the team more, kind of going, hey, guys, gals, non-binary friends, can you get them off me, please? Ashara has that built in. Ashara sees people under attack and goes, oh, hell no. Whenever the party's under attack, Ashara takes flight and increases her damage by 10% every 5 seconds, stacking multiplicatively up to 20 times. The key word there is multiplicatively. So this isn't just like if it was additively, it's another 200% damage. She gets 3 times her damage. No. 10%, 20 times multiplicatively. This is a lot of damage. That's a nice ramping damage boost. Now it is every 5 seconds, which means to get the full effect, it takes 100 seconds, which makes Ashara pushing in the late game slow. And well, I shouldn't say in the late game. In the late levels, as you're building up enemies on your tank, takes a while to get to 100 seconds. So to truly get everything you need out of Take Flight, you have to have a nice durable front line. Whether you build that durability, whether that durability just comes from the tank itself, or comes from the support that you're giving the tank in terms of shields and healing, that's kind of up to what you're building out in your formation. Okay, so Take Flight is the other key, and Take Flight, as you saw me hover over it, also has an item. So Ashara does get self-damage the ramping damage, Paragon of Kirsa ball built around the bonds. So basically the itemization is just spot on. The only thing she doesn't have that would have been somewhat interesting, considering she has a DPS support, is a damage all champs item. She doesn't have that. Instead, they went double ultimates. So you get ultimate cooldown, which is essential on Ashara, as she has a 420 second ultimate. So reducing that time is a big deal. And then ultimate attack damage. And considering her ultimate is a fireball, and well, everybody likes big damagey fireballs, right? So let's talk about the next set of bonds, because as you can get up, so like I said, originally, you're going to run Ashara Potpourri as a new player. You've got Makos and Tyrell available right away. So we're going to talk more about just like what are your starting champion options. I can't believe I just selected Domina, but I did, because we're going to talk about that. So here's what your core bench would kind of look like, right? So when you're starting off, obviously you're going to have a lot of these other people in here trying to make a formation, but the three that are key to her bond are going to be initially, her first bond, are going to be Ashara, Makos, and Tyrell. And then we want to try to find a way to, once you can get high enough level, to light up that other bond for her. Now, before you get to 325, what you're doing is you're just picking the best possible other options to give her power, just like you would in any other formation. If you happen to have options that are solid, that line up with her bond, that are one of those potpourri things that you've gotten from so Aarakocra, Dragonborn, Fearbolg, Lizardfolk, Minotaur, Tiefling, Turtle that you've gotten from an event, you can throw them in. Totally fine. There are a number of other options available. See, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. There's like 8 other options. Some of them are swaps for same slots, so keep that in mind. Down here, Makos and Shaka both qualify to buff Ashara in Potpourri. Tyrell, Havi, and Toragar are all options. I just find early on these are probably just going to be fantastic options for you. But if you have other event champions that you could throw in from these other slots, that works. Like Orkira is in slot 1 and is the current queen of debuffs, so she synergizes very well with Ashara Potpourri. You have Dinar, Korth, and Talon in slot 2. You've got Grama and Mehen in slot 3. Grama is a fantastic late game debuffer, or just anytime debuffer. Once you can get her up into our Arctic Spect with Freezing Breeze, so around level 200-ish. You have Keelik as an option, who's an Aarakocra in Calliope slot. So there are multiple ways you can set this up to use Ashara, and early on just to ramp up that bond. As long as those other people you're putting in are also contributing not just to the bond, but also with their other abilities, because that's important, super important. So, if I haven't made this very clear, your first specialization choice, if you're using Ashara DPS, should be Potpourri. Period. Yes, there are lots of dwarves and elves. Yes, there are lots of humans, but you want to not only give Ashara the boost for her own, for being an Aarakocra, you want to kind of double dip with Paragons of Kirsa Ball by giving it to herself again, right? So, the real decisions for a new player, once you can push far enough in whatever campaign you're on, or event, or time gate, to start using, to get Ashara up to her second bond, that's where things are going to be challenging. She gets 3 options. Let me bring them up here. Haboom. Half-bloods, exotic races, and short folk. So, as you can see, this is not like some other champions where you pick one of the first 3 options, and then they include those prior options you didn't pick And you get to pick from those and the other options. That would be interesting for Ashara, but probably a little too powerful at this point. She's strong enough. So you get to choose half-bloods, exotic races, or short folk. Core champions available to new players. There's Calliope for half-bloods. There are no exotic races or short folk available as core champions. So you're going to have to make some decisions here, and it's going to be based on kind of who you've unlocked in events and time gates already. And find one. If you've got 3, great. If you don't, it's time to manually choose somebody out of a time gate, or look at what's upcoming in events to know when you're going to get a third option naturally. But if you need to go hunting and you don't have, if you get to the point where you're at 325 regularly and all you've got is Calliope, Half-Bloods is clearly the easiest way to move into that second bond with the minimum requirement of 3 champions out there. So, to go along with Calliope in Half-Bloods, there are a whopping 5 other choices, and one of them swaps with Calliope. So there's really kind of 4. You have Briv, who is a half-orc, but he swaps with Calliope. So that's if that's your only swap, you're not gaining anything, right? Because you've already had Calliope. So there's basically 4 options. Number 1 on that list, who is someone you're going to want to get anyway, because currently they're the best buffer in the meta, is Avren. Avren does qualify. Avren is going to be, let's just go over here. Avren's going to be down here in slot 11. So it is a high level slot, so you do have to have lots of gold to get there. But if you're getting to 325, you should be able to light up some of these champions and get them to their goals. So Avren's a half-elf, does qualify. Avren, fantastic buffer. Then you're going to need to pick one other person. So Avren is the go-to if you're going for half-bloods. Avren would be the go-to. You'd have Calliope, you'd have Avren. You're going to need to either pick Krydle, Omen, or Jaheira. That's it. Those are your 3 options. Those are the only other half-bloods in the game. Currently, as I make this video. Out of those, I'm going to just say, if you have Jaheira and Krydle already, light it up. And you don't have Omen, just, throw one of them in and light it up and see what happens. But Omen's probably going to be your better bet there. Omen offers some buffs. He also offers lots of gold find. And if you're watching this live, he's arriving in the upcoming event. So about a week and a half from now, you'll be able to get Omen. People I see, we already talked about Briv, folks. Briv doesn't help. Briv doesn't help us because we already have Calliope, and they share the same spot. They share the same slot. You can go out of your way and choose to get Briv instead of Calliope, but you've slowed down your progress to getting someone else if you needed to get somebody else, right? So what I'm trying to allow people to do is to light up that triple bond as quickly as possible, and if they have to go hunting for champions, you may as well just use Calliope. Grab Avren, because you're going to want Avren until they nerf him or they make somebody even more OP in his slot. And then Omen's coming up in the upcoming event. If you want to be patient and wait, you can grab them. Otherwise, if you already have Krydle, Jaheira, those will light you up. Those will light you up for half-bloods. Okay, let's talk about say you don't want half-bloods. Say you want to go exotic races. This is a little, I would say at this point, I mean, we are talking meta, so I guess I'm going to get a bit subjective here. I mean, when we're talking about the meta, we're being pretty subjective in some terms anyway. Exotic race is probably not the best option for you to go with this second bond set. The only champion currently kind of in the meta that's going to light up exotic races for you is Nova. Nova's a great tank in slot 11. Synergizes well with this, but, ramping, you got to have them in from the beginning. And the problem with exotic races is 4 of the exotic race options are all in slot 11 and swap with Nova. Dragonbait, Nova, Ariza, and Warden. Right? But Nova's kind of the best there. In slot 1, you have Sisaspia and Turiel. So you could choose one of those if you have them. Again, if these are the choices that you have, even though they're maybe subpar, but these are what are going to light up that second bond for you, and that's the only way you can do it, try it out. Right? So Sisaspia, Turiel in slot 1. You've got Sentry in slot 4 as an option. You have Narak as an option and Birdsong as an option. But in general, these aren't necessarily considered super meta support options to light up that secondary bond. So Half-Bloods is one that people do a lot, especially new players, because again, you start off with Calliope, so you only got to pick up 2, and one of those is a must-have support for any DPS that you want to put with them, and that's Avron, right? The one that I use, we'll get to the end, we'll just jump right straight into my personal favorites, because, hey, I'm the one doing the show. I love the short folk. I love lighting up short folk, and generally speaking, that's what I'm always going to do. Even though, guaranteed 100%, Avron's going to be in my formation with Ashara. In fact, I'm just going to throw Avron out right now, because, of course, I'm going to use Avron. So even though, guaranteed, I'm going to be using Avron with Ashara, I tend to lock in the short folk bond. Now, this requires you to have 3 event or time gate champions. So this is, again, if you were able to unlock them, if you've been around a little bit and you were able to pick some of these up, great. If not, you're going to have to hunt them down. But there are a lot more enjoyable, somewhat meta options when it comes to short folk. People that the champions that people enjoy for lining up short folk are things like Regis, who's Companions of the Hall, great debuffer with some buffs and an occasional healing, and some gold find. Spurt, people like Spurt. Freely's best in slot for his slot with debuffs and gold find. Human, people like Human. Human offers a lot of speed, but in terms of pushing, he also gives, if he's in the middle slots, he gives extra, like double credit for chunking on the armored and hit-based bosses. And when you're doubling that up with Ashara, who's going to have 3, 4, 5 magic missiles, you chainsaw through armored bosses, right? And Penelope, right? Everybody loves Penelope. Penelope is a nice buffer who also has a nice AoE on her attack, which synergizes well with Freely, setting up Freely's debuffs. So that's something to keep in mind when you're building lots of other things. These are just a handful of the short folk that work very well to light up Ashara's third bond. There's also Deacon in slot 1. You've got either Ishi or Stokey. However, Ishi is a DPS herself. So if you were trying to, and doesn't offer much support, so you'd end up going Stokey there if that's who you have available. There's also Lizaps as a tank, our little armored goblin friend. And then we just saw the arrival of Eliwick, right? So Eliwick, if you're listening right now, you unlocked Eliwick, so you're already one champion on your way to a short folk bond. Rosie's also in Eliwick's slot, but again, Rosie's more of a DPS, so isn't really going to be contributing. Zorbu is both a DPS and a support. However, yeah, probably. I mean, if you just need to light up that bond and that's the best that you got, you can throw in these DPS options. But we really want to hit, people who offer more generalized buffs like Regis Spurt, Freely, Human, Penelope. Those are kind of your options. So for me, my Ashara formation usually looks something like Let's throw in the Freely, and then who else? Humon, right? So if I'm throwing in something like this, then when we go and we look at Potpourri, we'll notice I am at 3 and 3. This is kind of the minimum qualifier for setting up an Ashara formation at higher levels. You want to get that double threes showing, right? You want both of these at 3. Can you go higher? Absolutely, absolutely. Make sure that as you're adding higher, as you're adding other things, that they are truly what are your best options, right? So don't go higher just for the sake of going higher. Go higher if it's actually making you more powerful. So here in Tomb of Annihilation, we've still got 3 empty slots, so we can slot in just about anything we want. If I want to go in, if we get into, once again, my preferred setups, we're definitely going to have an Orkira in there, right? We already have Avrin. I didn't look at the others. Regis. Yeah, we're going to want Regis. So I'm going to go all in on these things. And then, if I could pull off a Lazap's tank, I'll do it. Gromma's usually in here. So we could try Gromma. We could go full debuff. Even in this, though, Gromma's just not necessarily the best pusher in the world. But if I were just going for maximum DPSage for whatever reason, I just wanted to set my bud super high, this is going to give me a 5-4 setup, right? That's going to give me a 5-4. So, you're going to have some different options. Let's go ahead and level everybody up and start. We're going to want to go with Regis. I'm going to go Circle of the Arctic, Tailfeather the Phoenix. With Regis, you're going to want to buff whatever directionality you need to put in. Remember, Regis needs to be either in front of or right behind. But then you're always going to want to go Ruby, Weakness, Magic. I'm going to go Law. We're going to go Teamwork, just because I don't want to worry about it. Make the choices that make sense for you. Now, again, we had Tyrell in here. Tyrell could be your tank. He absolutely could be your frontline tank. I find him better with Ashara as a support. Specifically because one of his tank things doesn't necessarily trigger for Ashara, because she is a neutral champion. With Avrin, you are going to pick a neutral. Some of these I just default to certain stuff. I always go good with Penelope, even though that may not be my best setup. Avrin's always going to go Sturdy Mirrors, and we do the Minor Eruption to get that AoE. To get that AoE on Penelope, just so we can have it. So if we were going to start pushing, this would be like a push formation for Tomb of Annihilation with Ashara. Potentially, I would probably end up with a different tank ultimately than Gromma. But this is kind of demonstrations if I'm going to go all in on Ashara as a DPS and trying to light up all of these bonds. What are the bonuses I can get? So we're up to, with 5, we're up to an EO5 bonus. At 4, we're at 6 EO4. I believe at 3 we were at 2 EO4. So it's not like as you add more, it's going to get amazing. But remember, 3-3 is your minimum. If for some reason you're making changes and you're dropping below 3, you're probably going to feel it in your push. You're probably going to see that you just lost a significant amount of damage because Ashara just lost that entire bond. And you kind of want to make sure those are lit up. Other things to remind, again, I'm just going to bring it back. The reason why I said Gromma's probably not the better tank here is she's not the most durable tank. I don't have her in her tank spec at the moment. I have her in Arctic, but that was a choice I made because she gets all of her health and her health share regardless of what spec she's in. She just doesn't get her tanking stuff in this formation. I would probably bring in a more durable tank. I might bring in Lazaps and try to push with Lazaps as far as I can. I would most likely end up swapping over here. I would swap Makos for Ayla. I would swap Makos for Ayla. I would keep Grama. I would keep Drama. Did I just give her a new nickname? I would basically just swap these positions and then put in Ayla. And because I'm above 3 for that bond, it's fine. I can lose 1, and I could get a much more durable tank. Again, that's my choice. Use whoever you want. You could also bring in Briv over here if you wanted to use Briv, if you're a big Briv fan. You can use Tyrell. I've totally used Tyrell before. And then you can keep all of these other things. You can just swap them around and use Tyrell as your tank. Ultimately, it's going to be whatever suits your scenario the best for what you're doing. If all you need to do is beat a variant, and you know that having all of these bonds lit up like this with not necessarily a super big tank is going to give you enough power to easily push through and complete the variant, you're golden. But if you're trying to do a super deep push, whatever that means for you, where you're really building up lots of enemies on your tank, you're going to need a super durable tank, and you're going to need to make sure you're making that choice so that, because it is a very big thing for Ashara to take flight and ramp that buff up as high as possible. Remember, it's 10%, 20 times, but multiplicatively. So that's a nice bonus, and you want to grab it if you can. So this is one of those cases where making sure that you can survive long enough to get her to 20 take flight stacks. So that's 100 seconds of waiting. It's 1 minute and 40 seconds for those who don't want to do the math. That's going to let you push. So what does this get you ultimately? I mean, for me, I can put in a formation somewhat like this. Obviously, I'm going to have a different tank, like I explained before. I'm usually looking at 3/3 bonds, and then I'm making sure I have durable tanks, and then whatever best buffs are available. I have pushed on stream with this over like to 1,002, right? This is a level 1,000. Ashara is a level 1,000 breaker on her own. You don't need to do any click debuff shenanigans once you have the power. Click debuff might get you there sooner, but Ashara is going to get you there consistently without having to grind your computer to a halt with all the click debuff lags. And obviously is going to help you complete and push for favor and complete objectives. Now, clearly, you can't use all of these champions in every variant or with every patron. So the key takeaways here are, when you're using Ashara, you need to look through your bench to see who's available. You want Potpourri because you want to buff her, and hopefully you can light that one up. But you want to be able to light up either one or both bonds. So you're going to have to look through your available bench slot and make decisions about what bond choices you're choosing to be able to get you the best possible outcome. And 3 is your threshold that you're shooting for. If you just can't do it, there's sometimes I do variants. I'll get 3 for Potpourri, but I can only get 2 for the second bond, and that's just it. You do what you can, you take what you can, and then you just make sure that you've got the best buffers you can in, and you shoot for that. But this is, if you are able to, you always want to try to light up. You always want to light up both bonds with at least 3. What you do after that, your choice, based off what you see the increase is for having just that one champion in and their buffs. Try things out at your wall, play around. But ultimately, Ashara is going to do very well for you if you keep these things in mind. All right. So I think we will probably take our break there. I'll address some of the Ashara and Ashara meta questions as we come back from our break, and there will probably be a lot of clarifications that are important. So make sure, if you're watching this on a recording later, make sure you check out the questions after the break, because I have a feeling there's going to be a lot of pointed questions for this, and because I haven't done a meta one before, I want to make sure that we're addressing all that and we're having those conversations, and that could be very important. So we'll be back in just a few moments, we're going to go listen to a song from Bardic Inspiration about one of her half-blood Bond friends, Briv Steelmarrow. And then we'll be right back.
Magic metal in his bones, skin harder than the stone. Travels through the plains with his dusty blade. That's your swords against his hide. Briv the bow will hold the line. He's always there to render aid. Might see betwixt the stars. He takes his grip into the sky. Yeah. Catch a metal sound of thunder, snatch his foes asunder. He's still never, yeah. How's I feeling? He's still never, yeah. He aims to misbehave, put me in my grave. Bringing beasts to heal, no match for a man of steel. March from the darkness towards the light. Full of vigor, full of pride. Briv the bash won't be denied. They can feel it flee before his sight. Draw an armor from his skin, never is given to his kin, yeah. Road deep within the soul, the highlights go. He's still never, yeah. How's I feeling? He's still never, yeah. He aims to misbehave, put me in my grave. And if I don't work, you know, he'll just go with the flow. Solo. He's still never, yeah. How's I feeling? He's still never, yeah. He'll burn in this behavior, put me in my grave.
Now it's back. Okay, it should be back. Folks. Everyone, your mic's dead, over and over and over again. There's closed captions right on stream, folks. You can literally read that I'm aware that my mic was dead and that I was working on it. Okay. Streamlabs be Streamlabs and... Alright. So, reading in this meta? Yeah. Alright. Alright, so we have a lot of questions. I'm going to go through them. One I saw towards the end. It wasn't one of the first questions, but it's probably one that's important, and I wanted to address. There is some synergy. There is obviously synergy with other champions, with Ashara being a caster. The big one is Alcoria. Alcoria Stone Marrow is an evergreen champion. Swaps with Tyrell, though. So, it's kind of going to be subjective a bit around who you're running in your formation and whether they match up with what Alcoria needs. Alcoria builds around having stacks of Spellcaster School. Just in this formation as it stands, if I just hot swap, there's 6 stacks. This is a solid amount because this buffs Watchful Order. It at least gets some attack speed for Ashara and buffs positional formation abilities for people who are magic-based attackers. If you get to 7, there's a chance for faster attacking, which is nice. Faster attacks are nice, right, for wave clear and damages. It's kind of up to you as to whether this swap is going to be worth it or not. I'm at 202 with Alcoria currently. It's also going to depend on where you are in each champion's power curve. Let's see if we get another attack here that actually lands. Everything's dying. Everything's dying right away. Let's take familiars out. So it's going to kind of depend on your power curve. You're going to have to test like we're doing here. So seems like earlier when I was testing it was a little better with Tyrell, but now we've got some upgrades in both of them. It's going to be better for me to test this at soft cap, but these are tests you're going to want to do on your own. Because if you're using a different set of bonds, then it may not be worth it forcing Alcoria in. Obviously, if you're using Tyrell to tank, that's a problem, right? So figure out what's going to work for you. Here we are. Yeah, 2 EO2 with Tyrell. Again, we're kind of in this same... I feel like we're in the same ballpark here towards the end of the push. Yeah, I feel like it goes either way. It goes roughly either way, depending on what the hit is. This is just my preferred. I personally don't run Alcoria. That doesn't mean it's not going to work out better for you. As always, make the choices that work best for you with the champions you have and their gear and item levels. Right? Like this game is incredibly subjective to each individual player's experience based off the loot you have received and the champions you own. And there is no difference when it comes to building out an Ashara formation. Some of you may be building out, a Half-Blood formation instead of Short Folk, right? So use what you have and try to just make the best overall for your situation. Okay, going back through. Is it worth going for exotics to get Ashara triple bond bonus on Strahd Patron runs? What is the meta there? Ooh, I did not break this down into... This is just a general new player. Here's how to light up Ashara and get that going. I did not break down lists of available champions per patron. Because again, that experience is very subjective on who you have. So is it worth going exotics for? If that's what you have, try it out. I do Patron runs on my own channel, usually Thursdays, kind of midday. And anyone in my chat will tell you that I just pull up and throw in people for a formation, and I try to see if I can complete it. And if I can't, then I start getting real technical and try like all kinds of different swaps at whatever my wall is. Wherever I was pushed to and then died, then I start swapping things around. And, you know, I mean, experimentation is your best friend when it comes to this game. I don't think, because there are so many different variations in each patron, don't think there's any hard, fast rule for what's going to be best for you. I think trying to commit to a hard, fast rule gets you in a very rigid mindset that could be problematic when you're trying to solve that specific puzzle of a specific given variant. So maybe. Ultimately, it's just who do you have available and who can use. At the time I did most of my Strahd stuff, Zorbu was still the meta. So it's very hard for me to say what Ashara's specific version is there. What else do we have that's specifically for? What champs do you pair with Ashara for 2-tank formations? The quick and easy answer is whoever you've got, right? My go-to tanks, generally speaking, are Tyrell in Wild Shape and Ayla. Briv is also another option. Those tend to be... Briv is a great tank. I find Ayla to be, in my opinion, the best tank in the game. Tyrell's kind of second up there if you've got the item levels to trigger his ultimate repeatedly on cooldown. Like maxed out cooldown reduction. But ultimately it's like, who do you got? It's rough for newer players. If you've got 2 tanks frontline, then maybe, I've used, on my new player account, it's Nieli and Tyrell, right, for a 2-tank frontline. That's what I gotta do, so that's what I do. Let's see, that was that one. So many general questions, folks. Sorry. Any tips on Ashara formation in Avernus? Getting ready to go for Rayon. I'm afraid I don't have the power yet, but should be able to time gate one more champ on Monday. Again, figure out who you're trying to light up your bonds with, who's available. Rhea Reborn is a very specific variant that has specific restrictions. In fact, it's the same 0 restrictions. So strength 10, charisma 13. So what you're going to need to do is review your champions. There are some fan sites that are great for this, where you can punch in the stats and then review which ones you have and try to build out your bond formations. See what you're missing. Are you able to light up both bonds? That's going to be the big deal, is just getting that 3/3 on both bonds. Beyond that, any other major bonuses you can get, and some durability. Well, actually, for Rhea Reborn, it's just all about buffs. Ideally, you never tank in Rhea Reborn. I know that's... people are probably going, what? But because of the way Rhea Reborn's variant rules work, it's actually better if you just have Ashara in, or whoever your DPS is in, and everyone else is buffing that DPS without worrying about having a tank line at all. This means what you are doing is going for a pure DPS and the ability to kill everything as it spawns. The reason for this is there are NPCs in that variant that when they come onto the screen and they touch one of your champions, they basically disable your tank line and it basically makes you down a champion for everyone that they disable. So you end up with no tanks and down multiple champions. So it's actually better to just try to go all DPS. So you effectively don't get any of the ramping bonuses that are normally what make a tank line strong. So you need to rely on pure DPS output for Rhea Reborn. So build around that type of situation. Know that if you're putting tanks in, you're putting them in to provide damage bonuses. So like Tyrell in Moonbeam. Ayla is still a fantastic debuffer. She just doesn't need to be in the front line. Gromma is a great debuffer, and with the slow with Freezing Breeze, if they qualify. I'm just rattling stuff off the top of my head, but they may not qualify for that. Friezo, given that Ashara's ultimate pushes enemies away, that takes her out of her take flight stance, is there a way to use her ult without breaking her take flight? No. Not all ultimates exist just to do damage or to synergize with the champion. Specifically, Ashara's has a damage component that triggers. You want to make sure if you're using it that you're letting her ramp up take flight as much as possible before firing it off. But what it is her ultimate is a kind of a last ditch effort to kill a boss before your tank dies. So you're watching your tank get lower and lower and lower. You know, one more hit, it's going to die. You try to do the knockback just to get it off the tank and get the tank ramped up again. But if it doesn't kill that boss is going to walk right back up and nuke your tank, right? So it's very much, her ultimate's very much a last-ditch kind of effort. It's a very long cooldown. It's kind of, it just kind of shows some of, if people haven't put 2 and 2 together on Ashara's ultimate, it is a fireball with a base cooldown of 420 seconds. Yeah. Gotta love it. Do you only get the bonus for 3 races per bond? No. That's just the minimum. That's the minimum trigger. You have to have 3 for Paragon of Kirsa to then apply that bonus, that bond set, to Ashara herself. So it's a minimum trigger of 3. Is Human considered as both human and kobold for Ashara? Yes. Yeah. I believe I use both. I'm just going to say yes. Because you can go figure this out yourself too. Should I still choose Potpourri as the first option, even if I have to wait until Archon to form a 3 bond? Why would you have to wait until Archon is my question. Because you have Makos and Tyrell as core champions. And again, Archon is not great for this form. Or you use Archon if you're building an Archon DPS formation. If you're going Archon, if you're building Ashara support around Archon DPS and you're choosing Potpourri to support Archon, but that's Archon formations are a whole other bag of worms. I did a Gaarawarr's Guide to Advanced Formation Strategy, which basically meant we talked about Archon and Artemis because their formations build very differently from everything else. So if you're going Ashara DPS and you're using core champions, you want Makos and Tyrell. And Martin is confirming that I did test the other day that Human counts as both human and kobold for Ashara. So I'm going to trust Martin. I have a 4-3 stack on Ashara. Is that good, or should I have made it 4-4? That's fine. Like I said, 3 is your minimum target. After that, you're prioritizing what's best for your overall formation. The only way you can know how to do that for sure is to push until you die, right? Until your champions get wiped, and then make a change to your formation and see if that lets you push further. Then turn auto progress back on, see if you go further. Is lighting up another bond worth it? Maybe. Maybe. And, if you're going to light up another, if you're going to add another, well, not lighting up another, if you're going to add another stack to the bond, prioritize Potpourri. If that makes sense for your formation. How does one hunt down champions to build Ashara formations? Well, that means you are you're either looking to unlock evergreens that might work with Ashara. Like I said, Olcoria is an evergreen that that you can put in and use to help boost Ashara. It doesn't necessarily work for one of her bonds. Dragon Bait is available as an evergreen that works with Ashara. Otherwise, you're making choices in your natural time gates. We're going to have a natural time gate weekend next weekend. So if there is a good option that you need to light up Ashara, like one of Ashara's bonds, that may be your priority if it's given to you in the time gate. Also, running manual time gates. So when you get 6 time gate pieces, going in and just selecting someone to pick out for you. Just make sure you're always looking at who's coming up in the next event. Next event is Omen and Jim. So again, Omen's going to help you out with the Half-Bloods. But Jim is a human, so that doesn't really help you. Yeah, that's not a question. Question for bonds from Sigma. Are the first and second bonds equivalent? I.e. is 7-3 the same as 3-7? No. You prioritize the potpourri. Prioritize potpourri if you're going to prioritize. But again, ultimately, that's all things being equal. So if you've literally swapped 4-3 and 3-4, like if you're looking, well, if you swap 4-3 and 3-4 and the damage is the same, then it doesn't matter. But if you're looking at kind of overall buffs and you think you're just throwing one in just to get another bonus for the bonds, and you're not getting any buffs, like sometimes you may in a very restrictive variant, you may only be able to throw in like a DPS that doesn't contribute anything, like Archon. You may as well prioritize that first bond. Will you show off your Ashara formation for your EGS account to show what it looks like for new players? Well, I kind of... I guess I can just... Here, let me... So this would be Ashara pushing. If I were going to do... so if I were on EGS, I would have Nayeli. Let's throw a familiar here. My EGS account has Deacon, but we can just do Brunar as if you're a complete new player, which is going to be more over here. Like if we're targeting just what a new player formation is going to look like, we're going to lose a lot of these options, but again, we're still going to be able to light up the bond at least once, like the first one, because we have Makos and Tyrell, right? That's the big deal. So if I don't want, I already took them out, I would do Hitch. Remember, Hitch is effectively a core champion. He's this hybrid of core evergreen, because you can unlock him at any time, but you can literally unlock him day one. And then I wouldn't have Avrin in, potentially, because I don't really have Avrin, so we would need to come up with options here. So this is more what we're looking at, and then I would have like Jarlaxle in, and maybe, maybe Minsk support for something, Jarlaxle and Piracy, and then Minsk for whatever I'm doing. In Tomb of Annihilation, it would clearly be undead. It would clearly be undead. But this is going to give you the potpourri, right? This is potpourri, and I still would need to hunt down things for other bonds. But I just, if you're on a brand new account, you're not going to have a whole lot of options, right? So this would be more what this formation would look like. If you were on a new account and you were just lighting up potpourri. Because I'm still getting the benefit of all of these other champions as best as I possibly can for this scenario, right? So good to go over 3 bonds. Sometimes. Again, remember, when you're going up a bond, it's just adding... It's going to depend on your itemization, right? So my items, because my multiplier here is huge because of my items. You're going to have to look at what your multiplier is, and when you add 1 more, it's going to add another stack. It's going to give you a bonus. How far is that really going to push you up? Like if we throw in... If I do what I don't like doing, and I just throw in Archon... right now we are at 297 EO4. And if I throw in Archon just for the sake of Archon, that takes me up to 637 EO4. This is a massive difference because I have solid itemization. That may not be the same for you, so you just have to try it. You just have to test it out and see, is adding another bonded champion just for the sake of the bond going to give you more pushing power? Try it and find out. If you can't get both of Avron's boosts applied to Ashara in a formation... Why wouldn't you? Okay, hold on. Let me read this whole thing because I'm confused. So here's the thing with Avron. When you're choosing Avron's bonds, or Avron's specializations, the first specialization you set to your primary DPS's alignment. Okay. In this regard, for the alignment axis that we're looking at for Avron, it's the right-hand side. So you would be setting Avron to neutral. Okay, and then the second specialization is Sturdy Mirrors, always. That's going to drop those mirrors on Ashara. It's going to prioritize neutral champions and hopefully drop them on Ashara. Now, if you have a lot of neutral champions, that means it may rotate around. And it means that when you're at your wall and you're pushing, if you're stalling out, you just need to check. Is the bond on Ashara? Is the mirror on Ashara or not? And then try to survive until it is, because that's when you're going to get your major power, is when it's on Ashara. But just setting Avron to neutral is going to prioritize dropping it on Ashara and other champions. That's all you need to do. I also then look to make sure, if possible, that I can put Avron next to my DPS, because he also gets you a little boost. It's a secondary thing. He gets you a little more boost if he's also next to the people he's boosting. He likes to be surrounded by champions, basically. So there isn't any reason you can't get Avron's mirror on her. You just have to wait for RNG to shift it to her. You would never choose an alignment for Avron that isn't Ashara's alignment when you're using her as DPS. Could you break down an Alcoria Ashara formation with 7 stacks and compare the bud to your current setup? Ooh. I mean, we're at soft cap now, so I guess we can test that out. So let me get a good... Well, I'm going to have to wait for Avron's mirrors to pop out. So as you can see, I have it on neutral, and Ashara got the first one. With this setup, I would have to go look. Who's neutral? 1, 2, 3. Yeah. So with this specific setup, Ashara's always going to have it. Ashara's always going to have it. They're just not, with this arrangement, they're not always going to end up surrounding Avron. Okay. That last attack, 172 E203. Somebody else remember that for me. I'm just going to remember E203. Let's get Alcoria up, and we want to get her to 7 stacks, which means I need to take somebody out that is not a magic base attack while still lighting up bonds. I could lose 1 from each side, potentially. Potentially. It's not going to be my tank because we don't have a magic base attack tank. We're not going to lose Avrin. We could lose Human. But not for anyone in his actual slot. Baloth? Baloth? We could bring in Baloth. Oh, hold on. Let me level him up the right way. We would need to move some things around here. We're not going to be ideal with Penelope in this regard. Okay. So we can move like Penelope back here. We would get rid of Human and we would put Baloth like there. That should be 7? Yes. Okay. And I should still be 4-3. I am. And I prioritized it correctly. I went up EO2. I went up EO2. Now, I don't know if that's entirely due to Alcoria. Or if maybe that's... oh, no. Now we're up EO8. Okay. So, we're bumping up a decent amount. Just keep in mind, Baloth... delivers a lot. Delivers a lot. So sure, there you go. There you go. That does light up 7 stacks of Spellcaster School, which means you get up here to 50% chance that their base attack cooldown will immediately reset. Sure. Sure. Gives you a little more of a bonus here, too. Gets me up to E10. Oh, hey, up to E209. Yeah. Baloth doing work. So if you want to get rid of Human for Baloth and swap Tyrell for Alcoria and you're using and you have a tank that's beefy, there you go. In order for Ashara to reach zone 1000 or near, about what gear level does Ashara and the associated bond members need to be? I have no idea. And that isn't all you want to take into account. That's assuming gear is the flat power modifier, and it's not. Like you also have to take into account your perks and your blessings and your Modron core and its power. This is still a modest core setup. I'm not using my modest core, but I think I'm using my speed core. But Ashara is a modest core gal, so that's going to get us a little more when we light that up. There you go, up to E209. So there are a lot of things that you have to combine to get to 1000. I don't know what the actual numbers are for everything, because I don't have a way to decrement my item levels to take it down and find that exact threshold. There may be people out there who I know there are a lot of math people out there who like to make the spreadsheets and figure out all the damage numbers, and maybe somebody's figured something out like that. But I don't know. The Discord's the best place for super crunchy math questions like that. For the Ashara 3 tank formations, we kind of already answered this question. What are the best tanks for filling the 3rd slot? I use Havilar and Celis a lot, but struggle with Briv because he's in Keelik's slot. I don't know why Keelik is what you're struggling with, but that's maybe just our personal preferences for things. I would use Calliope over Keelik any day. But I rate shields more important than heals. I mean, I feel like it's whatever with that. If you're using Havilar and Celis as your primary 2 and you're struggling with Briv, I don't understand necessarily what's going on, because Briv is a better tank than Havilar and Celis. Briv needs to be in his... I would have said Briv as a 3rd option, because I usually would say Tyrell and Ayla with Briv as the 3rd option. Briv should be in his go with the flow spec, so that he's healing as much as possible. And not only does that make Briv stronger overall, and tanking wise, it also makes the rest of the tank line better. So I mean, I feel like you've got them. I feel like maybe they're just not getting utilized correctly. What is the link to your Ashara formation guide? I don't have one. I don't make formation guides. I don't do that. I have a formation strategy guide that helps you learn how to make your own formations, because that's the far more important thing for you to learn. Copy pasting people's formations is gonna set you down a road where you're always copy pasting people's formations. I would much rather you just take the time to learn how to build a formation and be able to make those educated, informed decisions for yourself. So that's what I focus on. There are lots of people out there that do that kind of stuff. You can check the Discord, but that's not me. I do have an Ashara guide, but that more just talks about Ashara overall. This video will end up getting linked into that guide, but that's it. Yeah. Can I have the most crude explanation of why Ashara is good? Sure. And this is probably going to answer another question that I saw come in that I haven't got to yet about Ashara. And that was why I'm going to link these two together. And that is why did Ashara suddenly become the meta over Zorbu? The reason is they reworked Ashara. And they made it so previously she had bonds. She'd always had these bonds. Originally, she only had the first 3, and then they gave us another set of 3 because so many people were like, can we get more people added to the bonds? And they just made another set of 3. But prior to that, they'd always said, well, every champion isn't supposed to work with every other champion. You're supposed to have different combinations. So they reworked her, and along with the bonds that were already working like that, they added this Paragon of Kirsa ball that allows her to get the buff herself. Because prior to that, she was really best as a support. And they wanted to make sure that she could be both a support and a DPS. However, that self-buff basically pushed her over the top and made it so that that she was solid. What the other contributing factor, that made her a solid DPS and it made her a solid option. It didn't rise her up to the top because at the time, Krull was still bugged. So once they fixed Krull's bug, which was giving him basically an extra multiplier in his stacks, which are still to this day really solid multipliers, and the Zorbu Krull combination is still fantastic. Because they took off that extra multiplier, it brought him into a more balanced place, and Ashara then was able to compete against him in that same slot. And Ashara rose up and took off as the #1 DPS option. We have also gotten a lot of support champions that support her well, like Orkira and Olkoria and Baloth, right? And Freely, right? We've had a lot of champions that have fleshed out her bond setups in very spectacular ways, who are meta champions that also contribute to her bonds. So that is another way, another reason why she kind of became good. I mean, she was always good, but now she's great, right? Yeah, so that was this one. Yeah, that one, Martin. That one can go away too. Is it better to meet both bonds at 3 apiece or just the one bond at 6? Both bonds at 3. Both bonds at 3. Is there a handy place that has current metas for every patron? Discord is going to be the only place where that gets discussed. I don't know that there's anywhere that really just goes all in on, hey, this is the current meta. We haven't even dared to do that before, because metas change and we like these tutorials to be long lasting and give information that, is valuable even if you watch the video 6 months from now. But now we are dipping our toes into meta style stuff, and metas can change, right? And yeah, so Discord, Reddit, I mean, there may be posts on the Reddit, guides on the Reddit, but they're probably going to be listed in the resources channel. I'm bad at math. Is Ashara's bond 3-5 or 4-4 better in a vacuum? Probably 4-4, but it's, well, yeah, you're set in a vacuum, so probably 4-4. Because you're raising each multiplier instead of just one. Is Regis any good for the Ashara formation? Then I'm using him right now. I like him because I go short folk. So I like Regis as a debuffer. Regis Freely Penelope is usually what I end up with. I do usually end up with something more like this. I was doing the Human one because I really do love the synergy between all of Ashara's magic missiles and Human's double bonus for chewing through armored stuff. So I tend to set up for that. And I only switch to something like this. And again, I don't usually use Alcoria, but she's usually because I can get to over 1,000 without her. So I've never really needed to try and get more powerful. But it works well in this scenario. Is this solid for Ashara? First stack 7,000, second stack 3,000? I mean, if they're both... Are they both at 3? Like, if they're both at 3, that's really the key. Anything you get... Like, the numbers are going to change based off your stuff. I don't know. Mine are vastly different, right? So the key is if you're lighting up both bonds with at least three champions in each bond, then you have met the minimum requirements for ensuring that Ashara is going to be strong for you. And then you just have to play around with everything else. If I'm trying to pick between Half-Bloods and Short Folk, do I go with the choice that has more geared champions? Not... Usually, yes. But I encourage you to push to your wall and try them and try them both out. How do you try them both out with that? You have to have a potion of specialization. It's an uncommon potion, so green, but it tends to be harder drop than most. But yeah, get a potion. Just don't buy one from the Patron shop. Good Lord, those are overpriced. Get a potion of specialization and then push deep, get to your wall, die, try the other setup, and find out for yourself. That's the only way, because there are some champions who may be incredibly powerful for your formation, even if they don't have lots of gear. Like Avrin. Avrin's super strong as long as he can get both of his specializations. So you got to be able to get level Avrin up to 200 for him to really be in his power curve. Even without gear, he's going to do a lot of work for you. Ashe is the best DPS and Zorbu's second. Who would you say is 3 to 5? No idea. No one really talks about that. In this game, you're either the best or you're garbage for most players. But people don't really rate things beyond the best for any given. For the best generally, without restrictions, is Ashara. If you can't use Ashara, Zorbu becomes the best. I don't know if people really worry about rating anything beyond that. They just kind of look for the best. It's one of the downsides of being a DPS in this game, is if you're not the best, then why do you exist, is the thought process from a lot of players. I personally enjoy people like Farida. I'll roll Binwin out, but I'm not going to say he's competitive at all. But I have fun with him. But Farida's solid, not in the greatest place, but solid and a multi-hit. And I tend to lean towards multi-hit champions. I see people throwing Delina in chat. I will say Delina is pretty solid, but only if you can survive her ups and downs. She's a very swingy DPS champion, but she has a lot of wave clear. So yeah, I don't know. I don't know that anybody has bothered figuring out who would be considered next in line after that. This is all very exciting, but what does DPS stand for? Damage per second. Damage per second. But when we're saying it's a DPS champion, what we're saying is this is your damage champion. This is the one that exists to do the damages, while the others exist to support or to heal or to tank. Could you do 9 stacks with Alcoria plus 3 on Short Folk with Ashara? I don't know. I mean, I could try, but I feel like I would be losing powerful champions and not gaining much. Because here's the thing, Alcoria's 9 is really not that impressive. Increases the base value of spellcaster school by 200%. That's nice, but unless you're Unless your Ikoria is just super blinged out, I don't know that that's the best thing in the world. Yeah. I usually just aim for 5 if I'm doing something and don't necessarily try for more than that. But you, again, test it out and find out. Part of the problem is I don't have anything that I need to push super deep for anymore. If you get to 1002, that's it. Yeah, there's the way the scaling is in the game at 1002, they just kill you. The damages for an actual regular pushing formation. So I don't mess around with the super, trying to find out what my very ultimate best formation is just for the fun of it. I treat this game as something that exists to complete the content, which means completing the adventures and the variants, and as long as I can do that, then I'm good. The last level achievement was at 1,000, so once I completed that, I didn't really care about going any further. Again, there's probably people out there who have theory crafted this or built it out, and they're going to be in the Discord, #formations, or in the tavern, because that's more high-end stuff. Okay, I think that's everything that's specific. Oh, we did this one. And we did this one. Okay, generalized questions. I still got a bunch of them here, so let me try to get through them. When I started, I was told to save blacksmithing contracts until later. Is there a reason to stockpile those instead of using them on core characters? Yes, there's a big reason. Core and evergreen champions are going to get item levels just by opening the regular and silver chests and electrum chests that you get all the time, that you're going to that you get as loot, that you buy with gems. They're going to get tons and tons of duplicate items and bonus item levels. Blacksmithing contracts add bonus item levels to champions that need them. So your core and evergreen champions aren't really going to need them. The champions that are going to need them are your time gate and event champions, because they don't have, with electrum, they're going to get gear from electrum chests too, but they don't get that bonus of tons and tons of silver and gold chests, giving them duplicate item levels. So you balance out your item levels by using blacksmithing contracts to put on events and time gate champions. Generally speaking, your priority is putting them on the ones that you're using most often first, so that are kind of core to your formation, as well as certain speed champions to maximize their effects. But otherwise, and then later you can always spread some around as you see fit. Just don't use blacksmithing contracts on core and evergreen champions. If you've done this before, that's fine. That's fine. But, going forward, they should be going on your time gate and event champions. A question about Walnut. Should you use co-signers or temporary alliance? Can you explain these choices? Yes. Co-signers specifically refers to raising buffing your formation based on other C team members. If you are not using other members of the C team, this is Acquisitions Incorporated as the C team, which is Dinar and Cathris and Rosie and Walnut. If you're not using the other members, it's not going to do anything for you, right? So generally speaking, unless you are running a C-team formation, sometimes even if you have all the C-team members in, it may still be better to go temporary alliance. But temporary alliance triggers off champions that have an affiliation listed. This is currently the only ability that triggers off affiliation. So like Ashara doesn't have an affiliation. Freely does. He's got a Heroes of the Plains affiliation. So if you have Freely in a formation with Walnut, there's going to be a bonus off choosing temporary alliance, right? That's the decision you're making there, and that's what you're looking at to decide which to go through. More often than not, temporary alliance ends up being where you go. Do event tokens expire after the event? Yes. The second the event ends, they all disappear. They are not saved. Your account is zeroed out. This is why it's important to use all of your tokens before Monday at noon Pacific. So noon Pacifically, CNE Standard Time, is when the event ends. I recommend not waiting to the last minute, because in the last hour of an event, the servers start to grind to a halt as everyone that waited and ignored my advice tries to run their last free plays and churn through free plays to get rid of their tokens. So try not to wait till the last minute. Make sure you're doing free plays to get rid of your tokens for whatever champion you want to get chests on, instead of just buying chests, because for those 10,000 tokens that you get 1 gold chest for, you can do 4 free plays and end up with 4 chests, one of which is guaranteed to be gold. At worst, you're going to get 1 gold and 3 silver. Again, for the same champion. Running the same free play for the same champion 4 times. Otherwise, but you could get up to 4 golds. What are tokens? What tokens? Event tokens. That's this number. Currently, the event token, this event is sunflowers up here that I have like 3,000 of. I use the term event tokens because the term they use for the token is different in each event. Why does my lineup change my DPS guys? Beerbender X, I'm not entirely sure what you're asking with that question, so I'm just going to say, as you're adding champions to your formation, and those champions are buffing different members, how you have built your formation may focus your power onto different champions and thus change who is showing up as your DPS character. But it is your job as a formation builder to build a formation where your power is being focused onto the DPS of your choice. So the damage champion of your choice. That's part of learning how to build a formation. Colonel Adobo, in the gold performance chest promo, the natural performance promo, where it says an epic golden card, would that still drop if I don't have Freely unlocked? Yes, it goes to Freely's collection, item collection. And when you unlock Freely, it will be there. How did he get that blue click skin? So this is the ice ball, the snowball, the Icewind Dale snowball. There's also green flame click skin, which I'm just going to type in chat because it should still be active. That one was a promotion with Penny Arcade. The green flame one was. The snowball was a limited time availability gift when Icewind Dale got announced last year. We haven't seen any, they haven't added it. I thought they maybe would add it to the gem store or something eventually, but that just hasn't happened. So I don't know what their plans are for how to get these these click skins. And I don't know if they're adding anymore. Hi, Lauren. Welcome. What's the best formation with Zorbu? I got all the shinies for him. That would take a lot of time to talk about, but just know that Zorbu is very, unlike Ashara, Zorbu is very support agnostic, which means you can just throw in people like your best possible support champions, and it's fine. As long as they're buffing him, it's fine. He is not like Ashara where he needs very specific things. He's a hateful little man who just wants to kill stuff. And anyone that wants to join him, he's happy to have. So you're just using the strongest champions that you have available with Zorbu. But we may talk about that more in detail at another time. What if you... Green Tomato, what if you can choose literally any champ? Do you drop Makos? I don't know. Maybe. I mean, it's going to depend, right? Like normally, like I said before, a lot of times I'm using Ayla as a DPS or as a tank. So in this, my preferred setup would be to have Ayla in the front and Gromma in the back, and just drop one of those bonds. If I'm trying to push to over 1,000, that's what I'm doing, because Ayla's a boss, in my opinion. Circle of the Arctic is better than the Circle of the Mountain for tanking. Circle of the Mountain is technically the tanking spec. However, to trigger the debuff on enemies, they have to hit Gromma. And to get to the equivalent of the Circle of the Arctic debuff, they have to hit her a lot. A lot. Gromma's not the most durable tank in the world, so that may not be the best scenario for you. Generally speaking, I don't tank with Gromma, and if I do, I still have her in Arctic. Because she gets her health share and she gets all of her health in all of her specializations. So she still becomes this big, meat shield. She just doesn't get that debuff because I'm choosing to get the Circle of the Arctic debuff instead, which applies wherever she hits them on the formation. Like if that zombie had lived, they would be fully debuffed. I prefer that. As a very new player, what's the best way to get gear for the champions? Take the chest codes like the one you get from this stream and open those chests. Those are Electrum chests. Those gear up every champion you own up to blue, potentially. Blue is the harder item to get, but you'll get, you'll get gear for all your champions that way up to the blue. Otherwise, make sure you're taking your gems that you're earning on runs, both that are dropping off bosses and that you're getting for completing adventures as rewards, and you're buying chests with them. When you're first starting off and you don't have much gear at all, you want to buy silver so that you can at least get whites and greens across everyone. They can drop up to blues, but again, those are the rarer drops. And then once you've got at least now I'm saying at least green, at least into the green and blue smattering, and there aren't whites anymore on your champions, then switch and start buying lots of gold chests. So that's going to get you, up to blue and green. The only reason I don't switch to gold faster is because they cost 10 times as much as a silver chest, and it's better to have some gear than no gear, even if it's lower level. So that's the best way when you're starting out. And when an event is going on, you gear up your event champions by running free plays with those extra tokens. So after you've done their variants, after you've unlocked the champion and done their variants, you go and do free plays and get gear. Where do I use codes? How code? Did we... Is that command now in... Hold on. Yes! Yes! How code is now in exist. How do you redeem the chest code? I just put a link. There's a clip there. I won't make you go watch it while we're listening. But you click on the shop up at the top left. That's the dollar symbol. Unlock a locked chest, and then you copy paste the code in here. It is. You are going to have to stretch the cryptex out. It starts out from 12 up to 16 characters. There's the button down there for that. But yeah, there's now a command called how code that we did the clip for yesterday. I just started playing this week. How fast will we be able to tame new heroes? You get 3 every event. And right now there's an event going on. It only has a couple days left. Literally 2. But you can do the unlock missions for each of those champions and unlock them. You just may not be able to grab a bunch of gear for them, but that's not horrible because Electrum chests again exist, and you will get Electrums like over 20 Electrum chests a week if you just make sure you're grabbing all the codes from streams and stuff that people post them on the Reddit. They post them on the Discord. I use the Discord to make sure I catch them all. But yeah, over 20 codes a week for those, so that'll help you gear those champions out. So just make sure you pick them up during the event. Next weekend will be a natural time gate weekend, which means a time gate will open, and time gates exist to kind of as this time travel thing to take you back as if one of those champions were in an event, and then you can unlock that champion and a little bit of gear for him. So you will be unlocking just automatically at least 4 champions every month. Events happen every 3 weeks from the start of the event, so there will only be a 1-week period roughly of downtime between events during which you have that natural time gate weekend. So that's just on a rotating schedule. So 4 champions a month is at least what you're going to be picking up, and then you'll earn time gate pieces over time, and then you'll be able to run a manual time gates as well, and then you can choose any champion you want. Do you typically only use one healer in your deep pushing formations? I typically don't use any at all, unless, well, I mean, I have Orkira, but she's not in there to heal, if I'm being frank. And Regis isn't there to heal either. They're just there to buff and debuff. In my deep pushes, at my point, heals don't mean anything. What matters is the durability, the self-durability of the tank, which is why I use Ayla. Ayla provides her own shields, up to 1,000% of her health total in a shield. And that's just overpowered in the current game setup. I've been wanting Ayla and Tyrell to be balanced in terms of shields for a long time, and they just, apparently that's not, they don't care. They're fine with it, so if they're fine with it, I'm going to take advantage of it. So yeah, I don't usually mess with healers. Now, on my new player account, you better believe I've got Celeste and Calliope in there keeping my Nayeli alive, right? Shields and heals when you're a new player are a much bigger thing. It's just later on, not as big of a deal. Don't use healer shielders. They say no. It's just self-shielding on a tank is a bigger deal than shields that are provided from other champions. And heals don't come anywhere near the level that the shields do in a realistic situation. What software do you use to generate captions from speech? It's a free program that anyone can use on the internet called Web Captioner. Web Captioner. Evelyn or Alindra? Yes. They do two different things. So Evelyn's a tank, Alindra's a support. So I don't. Yes. I'm not sure what you're looking for there. Can you lock yourself out from gem sync achievements by using gold chests to unlock feats? No. No, because there are 3 different kinds of feats, 4 different kinds of feats in the game. I did Gaarawarr's Guide to Feats and I explained them all. One are the default feats you get automatically. Another type are gem feats that exclusively come out of from buying them with gems. Another are they don't drop in chests. Another are chest feats. Those feats exclusively only drop from chests. You can't buy them with gems. And then there's patron feats. So, I mean, technically you can say there's cash feats, but you can buy those with gems too. So yeah, those are 2 different pools of feats. Are gem feats and chest feats. So you can't lock yourself out of anything there. Can anyone point me somewhere to learn this game? Played it years ago and came back. Want to get good. Well, you hopefully you watched this, right? Otherwise, I'm just going to self-promote here. I have a whole page full of guides. There's 96 guides on that page that have been updated recently. So I consider them active current guides for the most part. That should help you out quite a bit, but there's more resources there on the subreddit, especially in the wiki portion, from other players as well. And there's also the Discord where you can ask questions. Does Biddle and Grim count as both human and dwarf, or does it depend on who's on the field? It's probably going to depend on who's on the field. Because for Ashara, I don't really care about humans and dwarves. Because I'm never choosing those bonds for potpourri. I've never looked. How often are events? We kind of answer that one every 3 weeks. So Midsummer is going to end on Monday at noon. And then Wednesday, there will be a content patch. Friday, there will be a natural time gate. And then the next Wednesday will be a Garen's Day, the start of a Garen's Day, with the return of Omen and Jim and the arrival of a new champion, who they have already said on the Q&A is going to be Chaotic Evil. Tron, Regis for Dinar, Baldur and Grim, Hugh. I mean, those are all options. I don't know what that was in reference to. One thing I don't understand is why Orkira is the best choice for her slot. Can anyone explain why? Yes! Orkira is the queen of debuffs. Orkira applies a debuff with one of her abilities. It's under elemental fire. So at first you're like, oh, this is just a dot based off Orkira's damage. Who cares, right? But the second part is, and receiving additional damage from all attacks. and this ability stacks. So Elemental Fire applies a debuff. Healing Flame determines the amount of helps determine the amount of the debuff. And so that's based off her healing from lesser restoration. So there's a whole thing called Orkira stacking, where you set up a formation that's specifically built around creating outrageous amounts of healing from Orkira, and then you switch back to an actual pushing formation, because then Orkira is now ready to do massive debuffs for people. So she is nice that it is nice that she has heals. She's a great healer. She heals non-adjacent people. But the big benefit over Kira that makes her meta-worthy is that she's this major debuffer. It's a good time to use your Electrum chests if you're a new player right away. You know, basically, if you don't have, if you're not blue across all your champions, so if you're not at least, if you see any white and green or empty slots on any champion you own, you may as well be opening those Electrums and trying to get that up to blue. Once you're at least blue on everything, then you can hold on to them until you acquire new champions. So I personally hold on to mine until an event starts. I unlock the new champion, then I'd pop all my Electrum chests. I think, yeah, we're probably not gonna get through all these questions. So if I don't answer all your questions today, we've only got like 9 minutes left. Make sure you hit up the Discord. You can get lots of great people there. Some people may have already answered your question in chat. But if you have 3 parties unlocked, you would need 3 DPSs, right? Maybe not. Depends on what you're doing in your background parties. Not everybody pushes in their background parties. Some people gem farm. Some people Toragar stack. It just depends on what you're using your other formations for. Is there a good mathematically accurate way to weigh builds? Because just looking at my bud is guesswork at best. Well, no. Bud is... I said this yesterday, and I love it. I'm going to keep saying it again. Bud is your bud. It is your friend. It is your pal. It is there to... I mean, this is what I'm using. The other way to determine, other than Bud, how well a formation you have built is just how far did it push. You can test different builds and formations, get to the point where you get wiped, and then test something else out. If you don't trust Bud, those are the best ways to do it. Now, can you get all mathy about it? Sure. There are people who have built some tools. You'll find them linked in the Discord to try to help you set up determine what your best formation is without actually trying it in the game. I don't know. I prefer to me, this game is about the puzzle aspect of futtering around with my formations, and that's what I like to do when I run into a wall. So I just do it in game. The other day you ranked Talon low in the slot next to Krydle. I didn't say low. I just said, so Krydle, I said just wait until, Krydle's one of your last priority champions to pick up out of time gates, is what I was saying. And I said lower priority champions who aren't super strong meta, I would say Talon's probably in there in that slot compared to other people in that slot. That doesn't mean Talon is comparable to Krydle. Mars touted Talon is must have. Mars just really likes Talon. That's the thing. You can be as subjective about this game as you want. You can play. You can say for you, your must-haves are this, and these are the people that you think are must-haves because you build the game that way. Like, I would rather have Tyrell in this formation than Olkoria. Olkoria may give me some more damage, but if I don't need it, then why do I have to use her? I mean, so everybody's going to play the game a little differently. What characters do you get items for if you open chests? It depends on the chest, and each chest is going to tell you when you hover over it who those go for. So if I hover over silvers here, if I'll hover over Electrums, it says each chest contains 5 items, 1 equipment item for a random unlocked champion. That means any champion you own. Whereas a gold chest says 5 cards between uncommon and epic with gear for non-event champions. So they differentiate what I refer to as time gate and event champions. I separate the two of them. They're all under the banner. They put them all under the banner of event champions. So anything that is an event, so core and evergreen, are from golds, and the same thing with silvers, right? And if I have specific chests that are named for, like an Eliwick chest, well, that's only going to drop gear for Eliwick. But if I have a Natural Performers Weekend chest, it's going to drop gear for the people in this weekend, which are Freely, Calliope, Jarlaxle, Dritz, and Birdsong, right? So each chest is going to tell you who it drops gear for, either in a very listed way or in a exclusionary way by telling you who it either does or doesn't drop for. Patrons patron chests are different. They're just patron chests are going to say they drop for anyone that qualifies for this patron, and sometimes you can manipulate that with feats. So, what do you mean when you say 4 free plays? I mean 4 free plays. So when you, like, if I do a free play, like I'm doing a Ring of Regeneration free play. This isn't the event, but if this was an event adventure, a free play, I do this to and I complete level 50 and I get my random chest reward, and then I do that free play again. I do that 4 times. I get 4 chest rewards for 10,000 tokens, and that is the same amount as it would have cost me to just buy 1 gold chest in the store. So it is better to do free plays instead of just buying straight up chests. The only time you buy a chest is it's Monday, almost noon, and you forgot to do your free plays, and you've got over 10,000 tokens. At least get a chest out of it. And that's going to be it. We hit... oh, wait, hold on. Is there any way to get familiars besides gems or real money? Patrons. Each patron has one. Who's good DPS to build my party around early on? If you're brand new to the game, Jarlaxle is your starter DPS. But once you rise out of needing... once you have a little more favor, Ashara, who we just talked about today. That's 60 questions, folks. If I didn't get your question, chat probably answered it. Otherwise, ask in the Discord. Hit up the Idle Champions Discord. Can I do that link? I did. Yay. We're out. Streams will resume on Tuesday. So I will see you all then. Have a great weekend, everyone. We're going to listen to one of the short folk bonds for Ashara. We'll listen to Penelope's song. Bye, everyone.
Won't you be my friend? One without a fear. I've got a hand to lend. We'll be smiling through the air. They call me a half-pint sprout, but I want you to know, my friends say there is no doubt that I'm a whole hero. My love for adventure, second to none. So if you come along with me, we'll have lots of fun. Won't you be my friend? One without a fear. I've got a hand to lend. We'll be smiling through the air. Remember when things get dark, I can be your light. When you're ready to disembark, be there to fight. I'm going to mold the earth just to give you a hug. When there's a storm outside, we'll be snug as a bug. Won't you be my friend? One without a fear. I've got a hand to lend. We'll be smiling through the air. Our friendship is strong and we'll never part. Say